Most weight loss plans are one size fits all, not taking into account each person's individual needs. Noom is here to change that. Noom Weight uses psychology. That's why they say losing weight starts with your brain. But it also takes into account your unique biological factors, which also affect weight loss success. The program helps you understand the science behind your eating choices and why you have cravings. Everyone's journey is different, so your daily lessons are personalized to you and your goals. One of the great things about Noom is that it's nourishing instead of restrictive. They focus on progress instead of perfection. You don't have to give up carbs, or anything for that matter. Have cravings? Food FOMO? Noom can help you lose weight while still enjoying your favorite foods. To date, Noom has helped more than 5.2 million people lose weight. Stay focused on what's important to you. With Noom's psychology and biology-based approach, sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com.
Talking about
this is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
So, Curtis, this morning, normally I would take a very long shower as I get ready to wake myself up for the news hour at 5 a.m. But I heard over the weekend Mayor Adams told us all to take shorter showers, and so that's what I did. I took a shorter shower this morning.
Well, hold on a second. Before we get to the New York City mayor, who's playing the rope-a-dope with everybody, let's go to your governor, half-in-the-bag Murphy. And that's when I knew that this drought was serious in New Jersey, because it started in Jersey first, and then it sort of worked its way into New York City. Am I correct?
That is true.
Because you had a series of fires there. You could even smell it in your hot tub up in the Heights there in Jersey City as you were sitting there with the mayor of Jersey City, Steve Fulop, who thinks he's going to become the next governor of the state of New Jersey.
That is true, yeah.
Okay. Remember what Governor Half-in-the-Bag Murphy had to say?
I would say the big watchword is, folks, use less water in all aspects of your life.
And let me tell you something. I normally accuse all politicians, Democrats and Republicans, of being guilty of do as I say, but not as I do. But according to people who serve the governor his scotch, he generally has it on the rocks or it's watered down. He has absconded from ice cubes and water in his scotch. He just drinks it straight now. He knocks it back, shakes until 5 o'clock to happy hour, and then he legitimately says, now, you know me, I always loved my scotch on the rocks. No ice cubes. No.
Wait, so you have firsthand knowledge that the governor is part of trying to contribute to the fact that there's this water shortage and save water. He's taking his scotch straight now.
Straight. And by the way, have you seen his hair lately? It gives you an idea of why he's not.
I haven't seen it. Is he the Caesar haircut, or is it back to like all over the place?
God, it's all over the place.
Oh.
Well, he's half in the bag, but for your purposes, he's term limited out. Thank God.
That is.
Before he has to go dry out. Remember that famous interview with Tucker Carlson in the middle of the lockdown and pandemic when Tucker was on Fox News Channel, and he said that liquor stores had to remain open. They were an essential business, even though they weren't open anywhere in the country. And he couldn't answer. Tucker goes, well, why liquor stores? Finally said, well, I have to issue executive proclamations, and I got to fill up my scotch cabinet at the end of the day.
Well, first of all, I don't know whether the governor is an alcoholic or not. I know you're making that accusation.
Look at him. Come on,
okay.
Look at him.
But
does he have the Jake leg? Does he have the rum rouge?
I don't know if he does or not, but
yes, he does.
I would praise him for keeping the liquor stores open during the pandemic because it's what kept us sane in New Jersey.
Okay. All right. So let's move on from the Garden State to what used to be the Empire State, although the rust has taken its toll, and to what was always the crown jewel of the Empire State, New York City. Apparently, the mayor has understood that this drought has spread from western New Jersey, Sussex, all the way across the Hudson River to the 5 boroughs of New York City. And he declared a drought emergency. But I noticed in the language that City Hall is using, they're sending out subliminal messages Because, as you know, he's been playing footsie with President Donald Trump as they go back and forth, swapping spit. It's a love fest. And as you saw in the story over the weekend, apparently is willing to sit down with Trump. Our own Sid Rosenberg will be sort of the mediator, so to speak, to make the shidduch. And Eric Adams wants to be able to run for re-election on the Republican line.
That's the inside scoop right now?
Yeah, if 3 of the county chairmen give him what they call a Wilson Pakula, or as I call it, Wilson Coolio, he'll be able to run as a Republican. And they are negotiating that as we speak.
This is shocking news. You're suggesting that you have inside information that Mayor Adams, when he runs, or if he runs, if he's not behind bars somewhere, that he will run as a Republican next year.
Excuse me, Politico, not a conservative publication, a liberal publication, not. Jeff Colton, has suggested that in his piece and has said not only would Sid Rosenberg do the shidduch, but if Sid were not available, our own John Katzimatidis, our owner-operator. So now the pressure is on to convince the Republicans who would believe he's a fair-weather friend. And I could tell in the language that your own Liz Radabali, one of your up-and-coming reporters here at WABC that you're developing, used in reading the press release from City Hall. I've never heard language like this before.
Officials are urging people to be conservative with their water use.
Be conservative with their water use.
Interesting. Wow, I had not listened that closely to that rap that she did.
2 days before Election Day.
Wow.
To suggest, could I hear that one more time, please? Please, one more time.
Officials are urging people to be conservative with their water use.
So he's reading that from the mayor's press release about drought measures, what you need to do, using the term conservative. So Nancy did a deep dive on that. She goes, I don't ever remember him in his administration ever using the term conservative. First time it ever came up.
Really? And that's, of course, after the president sort of almost praised him during that rally.
Oh, my God, made love to him.
Yeah.
Well, basically was swapping spit with him.
Wow. So you think this is on purpose? He used the word conservative when he talked about water.
Because he knows he needs 3 of the Republican county chairmen and give him a Wilson, they call it peculio.
I don't know what that is. What is a Wilson peculio?
It means I rub your coolie, you rub my coolie.
Oh, okay.
And so you get to become an instant Republican.
Never used the word coolie before. Okay.
Well,
I'm going to start calling
that's
it that.
like Coolio. Remember the rapper? God bless his soul. He's no longer with us. Coolio,
right.
You remember?
Coolio's dead?
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. You didn't know that Coolio was dead? Oh, say it ain't so.
Well, and I didn't know it was another name for my Johnson.
The great Coolio, dead on arrival, and you don't even know. But anyway.
Yeah.
So you see the subliminal language. And to prove, again, that he walks the walk, just and does talk the talk, because he's always guilty of saying the right things, but not doing them, right? Especially the Republicans and conservatives who would be very jaundiced. To be conservative, he is saying, because we are under now water restriction. If you go up to the Catskills, you go up to the Mid-Hudson Valley where all our water comes down the ancient Roman way through the aqueducts. It rolls down. There is now massive restrictions. You can actually see old car wrecks of cars that were stolen and stripped down like 20 years ago and dumped in the reservoir.
Really?
Yeah, it's getting bad.
Huh.
So these are the restrictions in New York, more severe than anything in New Jersey that half of the bag Murphy has imposed on all of you. You can only shower in New York City now once a week. And if you're living with someone, that person must be in the shower.
Right.
Now, you don't have to have the cat in there because, as you know, cats are always cleaning themselves.
Yeah.
But dogs stink after about a week.
Really?
So if you're going to use water, it can only be used one time. You shower yourself, whoever else is in your family living with you, and the dog simultaneously.
Okay, so I want to just make sure I understand. This is coming down from City Hall.
Yes.
1 shower a week. I have to bring in all my family members. In my case, I have kids.
If you lived in New York City. It hasn't become that draconian in New Jersey.
Right, but if I were to live in New York City,
right,
I'd have to jump into the shower with the kids, the wife, and I have a dog, too. The 5 of us would be in the shower together.
Don't dogs stink after a while? They don't clean themselves.
No, you're not supposed to bathe them that often, but yes, they do stink.
But in order to be be properly hygienic.
So I would think it would take longer to shower all those people at the same time.
Yeah, but it's the French way.
You know how it is? Like someone's like, I'm cold, I don't have the water.
I know, but
the other guy's soaping up.
It's the French way. I mean, they only bathe once a week. You can tell when you ride the subways of Paris. The Metro, right? I mean, come on. It's great, the Metro, except the smell.
So I should hit Macy's when I leave here today to get some toilet water to cover my stink?
Toilet water.
To cover my stink when I'm not showering as often as
Chanel, you're right.
do.
Chanel number 5. Okay, so that's one.
Okay.
Number 2, the mayor, in order to prove his bona fides in being conservative, said you must brush your teeth with no water.
What?
Now, this has been done before. This has been done. Many people right now, if they were open up their refrigerator, they would see a box of Arm & Hammer buried deep in the refrigerator. Probably been there since they bought the refrigerator. They had no idea. You know, it's got that Vulcan and Roman god of fire.
Yeah.
It was always put in there to basically keep your refrigerator from stinking like your breath.
Yeah.
And it does a very good job.
It does.
But a lot of people don't realize it's also the alternative to toothpaste.
Did not know that.
Yeah, because toothpaste has, of course, fluoride. We'll get into that momentarily with that nut job, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. But you take the Arm & Hammer.
Yeah.
You put your finger in the box, which is already open, which you put in your refrigerator.
Right.
It may have been there a month or Sundays. And then you take it. It's got all of the Arm & Hammer baking soda on your finger. And then you use your finger as a brush, and you go back and forth, and that will clean your teeth.
Come on. I've never heard of this before.
What? The mayor has his press conference. He's talking about it as we speak.
Wow, okay.
And so this way you don't have to use any L'Aqua Fresh. No water.
And you just leave by the way, I always thought it was Arm & Hammer until this moment.
No.
It was Arm & Hammer.
It's Arm & Hammer. Arm & Hammer was your favorite, the American agent to Vladimir Lenin and also to Joe Stalin on behalf of FDR.
So I leave the Arm & Hammer on my teeth. I don't wash it off.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
It's like a bleach. Like when you bleach your teeth.
But it also cleans them?
It cleans them and it gets rid of your stinky breath, just like it gets rid of the stink in the refrigerator.
Never heard of that before. I'm going to try that today.
I want people right now, take a moment, open up your refrigerator. Almost every real American has a box of Arm & Hammer buried in the back of their refrigerator. They have no idea why it was there. It removes the odors. It's sort of like the what you put in your shoes, the odor eaters.
Right, same idea.
Same concept, except they were the first.
Well, I could brush my teeth with odor eaters then, if that's the case.
Don't be a wise guy.
Okay, sorry.
All right, don't be a wise guy. And by the way, now, fluoride. This nut job, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who you last reported dumped that cub, that bear cub in Central Park.
Yeah.
Years ago, that killer of a bear cub, and then try to blame it on a bicyclist. This guy is now saying when Donald Trump gets elected president, and it's looking more and more likely every day he will be, I will be the health czar. And one of the first things I'm going to do is no more fluoride in the water system, which we may not have any water left, but what little water we have in the reservoirs will no longer have fluoride in it. This was what the John Birches were talking about in the 60s when they said that Eisenhower was a communist and that when you put fluoride in the water, it was a communist plot to take over America.
And is that why he wants to get rid of it?
Of course. He hated Eisenhower. He hated Nixon. Remember his uncle defeated Richard Nixon, really stole the election from Richard Nixon in Texas and in Illinois. But the point being is, they're actually seriously considering it. Do we want teeth like they have in Great Britain?
No.
Where they're all rotted out?
Yeah.
Because they don't use fluoride in the water.
Well, you know, there was a town in Canada where they decided they were going to save some money and take the fluoride out of the water. But guess what happened? All these kids who never got cavities before were showing up at the dentist's office with cavities. So
and
they put fluoride back
love
in.
It. The Dentist Society of America supports
Of
that.
course
I mean, they'll spend
think.
millions and millions of dollars. And then finally, you can only flush the toilet twice a day in New York City now.
Oh, this is back at the water shortage.
Exactly.
Okay.
So whatever you do in your toilet in the AM, you let it collect the flotsam
Right.
and the jetsam. As you approach the PM, you flush it one time.
Now, is this for both 1 and 2?
Everything.
Really? Okay.
Remember, there are people who throw stuff in the toilet, too.
No, I'm talking about, just doing your thing. Like 1 and 2, sometimes you want to flush it.
Everything. There are people, they cook, and let's face it, they have a black belt from Betty Crocker, they cook to kill, and they toss it right in the toilet. How many times is that? Hey, honey, toss that in the toilet. Get it out of here. It stinks.
So, but if that's the case, I can only flush it once in the morning.
Once in the morning, and then once at night, the PM. And it's going to be monitored.
How is it going to be monitored?
Well, water bills have skyrocketed in New York City. Right. They know every flush. They know every time there's a drip out of the faucet.
Really?
Every time. And then this knucklehead mayor says, and we're going to inspect every Johnny pump. Yeah. You know what a Johnny pump
Fire
is.
hydrant, yeah.
That's right. Very good, very good. A Johnny pump. To see if any of them are leaking. Remember like that one Johnny pump in Bed-Stuy that was leaking and they put the goldfish in there,
turned
remember?
It into an aquarium, yeah.
And then they paved it over and now they put the goldfish back. The community is fighting back saying, we want a drip, Johnny pump, fire hydrant here because we want our goldfish there, right?
Yeah.
No, the mayor is going to make sure there's no more drip. Especially from your nose, that generally indicates that maybe you've been using nose candy.
Yeah.
But no more drip going on, except that idiot. If you were to go down underground where the aqueduct brings our water from the Catskills and the Mid-Hudson Valley, all those reservoirs up there, do you know we're leaking away millions of gallons a week, a month?
Where's it leaking from?
Because they haven't fixed the pipes. And it's over time. It just leaks. And then they have the lead line pipes. So a lot of times you're drinking leaded water.
Oh, yeah, that might describe a couple
thinking,
things.
no wonder why so many people drink Poland Springs water from Poland.
Are you drinking it from the faucet or Poland Springs?
No, I'm part Polish. So I drink Poland Springs right near Limanova, which is the Highlands, just north of the Czechoslovakian border.
That's the best tasting water.
Oh, my God, the aquifer right there is amazing. That's why they call it Poland Springs water.
Huh, didn't know that.
So you understand, the mayor's probably getting kickback from that because now you won't be able to drink from the faucet like your dog. How many times have you seen your dog drink from the faucet or, more importantly, from the toilet?
Yeah, all the time.
Because the water's colder in the toilet.
Very cold, yeah.
I am telling you, ladies and gentlemen, this is a nefarious plot on behalf of Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan, to curry favor with Republicans and conservatives because he knows the Democrats will defeat him in a primary. And he now wants to run on the Republican and conservative lines.
Wow, so you would be facing off against him, I'm assuming that you're going to announce at some point.
Oh, absolutely. In Studio 77, let's begin the rumble. And again, in the words of Liz Radabali, listen to her report. Okay. It came directly from City Hall, I kid you not.
Officials are urging people to be conservative with their water use.
Never before. Now, Nancy did the deep dive.
Yeah.
Since he was sworn into office January 1st, 2022, what a mistake that was. Hey, now you people must suffer. You didn't elect me. There has never been the use of the term conservative in how many trees had to be cut down in order to put out all of the mayor's propaganda?
I can't even tell you how much I get
never
from the mayor's office.
Once has there been any use of the term conservative.
Wow, this is shocking.
It's not shocking. Come on. You realize this guy, he used to be a Republican. Don't you remember that? He supported Rudy Giuliani for mayor.
I don't remember that.
Oh, of course you don't want to because his propaganda always said, you're making it. Curtis is making that up. I was there. I know he was a Republican.
Wow.
So understand this. He's like a chameleon. Anything to survive. Now, the lead story again, Jeff Colton in Politico has indicated that yes, our own Sid Rosenberg, the utreditor that he is, the Judas, is more than happy to do a sit-down with Eric Adams and Donald Trump in order to make peace and possibly secure for Eric Adams the Republican and conservative line in the upcoming mayoral election.
What does that say about your 720? You're here every day. You get here very early to prepare for the spot that you do with Sid Rosenberg. And the way he's going to pay you back is by trying to get Republicans in the city to endorse Mayor Adams' candidacy on the Republican line. That seems like a huge slap in the face to you.
To be perfectly honest, I've tried to take the morning show for him many, many times. Lou Rufino knows that. I've said, I hope that you can't get out of that bomb shelter near the guys. Remember, I took over that first 15 minutes.
I remember.
And I've told him, I will give him the best requiem. I will give him the best eulogy if anything untoward happens to him. I want that morning show so desperately.
You do, I know.
I've done morning shows many times.
You have.
And he knows that. So it's fair. It's fair. One hand stabs the other hand.
Wow, well, that's pretty violent of you, but okay.
In the meantime, you're a traditor also. So get the hell out of here so I can finish my job here.
Curtis Sliwa. Curtis Sliwa. Rip and read. Check this out.
This is the Rip and Read, featuring Curtis Sliwa.
Talking about
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa. This is the Rip and Read. I'm 264 my shit.
Oh, I'm so proud of our own Sid Rosenberg, who went down to the King of Prussia Mall outside of Philly to win over the alphabet salad, I call it. Gay moderate men for Trump. He was there with the LGBTQIP2SAA plus MM for the metrosexual he was. But Justin, the one thing he refused to do was to put on a Fly Eagles Fly jersey, Saquon's jersey number 26, and say, New York Giants suck. That might have guaranteed victory in Pennsylvania. Come on, Sid. You were 3/4 of the way there.
Now, to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
Curtis doesn't know about you, but he rips and reads.
This is the Rip and Read.
Get on your feet. Get up and make it happen. Get on your feet. Stand up and take some action. I think it's true that we've all been through some nasty weather. Let's understand that we're here to handle things together. You gotta keep looking on to tomorrow. There's so much in life that's meant for you. Get on your feet.
She did it again. Kathy Hochul, our governor, unfortunately, that it wasn't Lee Zeldin who persevered. And now you know why I call her Hokum, Hokum, because she's full of nonsense. So she's auditioning to get the hell out of Albany. That's obvious now. Definitely wants out. If Harris somehow pulls a rabbit out of her hat and snatches victory out of the jaws of what is increasingly looking like more and more certain defeat, Kathy Hochul wants a cabinet position. And in order to jockey and get a cabinet position with all the other Democrats who are hoping to leave their state government positions, Tish James wants to become the U.S. Attorney General for her relentless persecution and prosecution of everyone named Trump, including the President, Donald Trump, and all of his holdings and wanting to take all his money. She's got an inside lane on that. If Harris becomes president, there's Kathy Hochul, who definitely wants out of Albany. The polls are so miserable. She's 32% in the polls. The only one lower is Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan. She's got no chance of winning re-election. Might not even win a primary against either a Cuomo or Tish James, depending on how that goes. And so she forcefully made her pitch to the Team Harris campaign by getting on national television and attacking every Republican from Buffalo to Brooklyn who is voting in this presidential election.
If you're voting for these Republicans in New York, you are voting for someone who supports Donald Trump, and you're anti-woman, you're anti-abortion, and basically you're anti-American because you have just trashed American values and what our country is all about.
This is disgraziata, the shanda of the worst type. First off, this is suggesting that every Republican is pro-life. That's not true. Look, our own Sid Rosenberg has said he is pro-choice. I am pro-choice. Nancy, my wife, who is a registered Republican and is on the Animal Welfare Hour and the Rip and Read, she is pro-choice. Now, there are quite a few Republicans who are pro-life. I've never done analytics of it. So right there, I mean, you're anti-abortion, you're out of here. You're anti-woman. That's ridiculous. And worse yet, you're anti-American? Kathy Hochul, anti-American? Who flies the American flag more? It's the Republicans. The Democrats used to, but you so miscombobulated flying the American flag as being a symbol for being a Trumper and a MAGA supporter that now Democrats are afraid to fly the American flag as they have for decades because they think they will be stigmatized as a Trumper or a MAGA supporter. And you've been a part of that, Hochul. Plus, remember when you said you would force the removal of the mask from those who were anti-Semites who were threatening Jews? You said you would be the first, and then you backed off. And it took Nassau County, Bruce Blakeman, the county executive, to sign the county legislation that had first been proposed by Mazzy Phillips, who failed in her attempt to beat Swazi for the George Santos seat, and oh my God, she would have been much better than Swazi, but he moved to the right, like so many of these congressional candidates are moving to the right. But you see, she's added to a bona fides of attacking New Yorkers who are not Democrats. Remember, she did this again once before after the very heated primary that existed to choose a Republican opponent against Kathy Hochul, who took over the seat for a fleeing Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo, afraid that his own party, the Democrats controlling both the state Senate, a veto-proof control, and the state assembly through the crook Carl Hasty Speaker, would impeach him, and that also Attorney General Tish James would indict him. So he fled the governorship, and he bedded down, hit the mattresses, stirred the marinara sauce in Southampton, at his brother Chris Cuomo Fredo's compound, just at the time that his wartime consigliere, Joe Picoco, who was released from prison doing 6 years for political corruption. And so Hochul was elevated to become governor. And then all of a sudden, when she realized that it was Lee Zeldin, the former congressman from Shirley, who had won the very heated Republican primary against Andrew Giuliani, Rob Astorino, the former Westchester County executive, and Harry Wilson, immediately she let this fly.
The fate of democracy in this country. That's what we're fighting for, my friends. We are fighting for democracy. We're fighting to bring government back to the people and out of the hands of dictators. And we're here to say that the era of Trump and Zeldin and Molinaro, just jump on a bus and head down to Florida where you belong, okay? Get out of town. Get out of town. Because you don't represent our values.
And basically what happened was she said, get out of town, get on a bus. If you happen to have supported Trump, Zeldin, or Molinaro, and then this way, the bus on the way back, pounding the hound, Catholic Charities will round up the illegal aliens who just crossed the border, put them on the bus. Federal tax dollars will be used to transport them, courtesy of Catholic Charities, aiding and abetting the invasion. And then they'll come to New York, where we will provide 4-star hotel accommodations, culturally appropriate food, cell phones, iPhones, health insurance. We will give them everything that we don't even give our own homeless, our own veterans who are down on their luck. That was Kathy Hochul. So she has consistently proven to Team Harris over the years that she hates Republicans. Although, ironically, like typical politicians at one time, when she was the county clerk in Erie County, their responsibility was to issue licenses, driver's licenses. She rejected Eliot Spitzer, then the governor's proposal, before he had to exit stage left for transporting prostitutes across state lines, a violation of the Mann Act that led to a morning call to my husband-in-law, then Lieutenant Governor David Paterson, where, surprise, surprise, surprise. You remember how Gomer Pyle would say that? Guess what, Paterson, you're the governor. But at that time, Spitzer was fighting in the state assembly and the state legislature to allow illegal aliens to have licenses. And the person who stood in his way was the clerk of the county of Erie. And who was that at that time? Kathy Hochul, who said, over my dead body, I'm not issuing any licenses to any illegal aliens. And then remember, she was Annie Oakley. Before Gillibrand was Annie Oakley up near Albany. Both these gals were loved by the NRA. They had rifles and pistols and shotguns under their bed. They were NRA certified. In fact, the NRA supported them against their Republican opponents. And the moment Cuomo said, I need to win Erie County this time, I'm going to take on Kathy Holcomb. Kathy, you got to do one thing. You got to take your guns and turn them into plowshares. And you got to be willing to open up a printing press and print New York State licenses and give them free of charge to illegal aliens. And she said, yeah. Anything to acquire more power, because eventually she proved out to be the grifter in chief. Her and her husband, that's all they do. Fundraise. To stem off potential competition for re-election. But that's why she made these comments to curry favor for Harris if she becomes president, because she wants a cabinet position. Very much what Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo did years ago when he was the governor and thought he was on his way to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the first Italian-American president, to actually realized the dream of his father, Mario Faccia Brutta Cuomo, of getting to the White House. Remember what he said to Republicans and conservatives?
Are they these extreme conservatives who are right to life, pro-assault weapon, anti-gay? Is that who they are? Because if that's who they are, and if they are the extreme conservatives, they have no place in the state of New York.
And so that hastened the exit. There has been a nonstop exit ever since. New York State has lost more population than any other state in the nation simply because they packed their bags and left for a variety of reasons. But the number one reason is they're not wanted here in New York State. Cuomo made that very apparent. Holcomb made that very apparent and does it every day. And now that Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan, is on his way to prison in upstate New York. They already are clearing out the Sheldon Silver cell in Otisville. This is the one reserved for politicians convicted of federal corruption acts. As he desperately holds on, he realizes that his enemies in his own Democratic Party are not blacks and Latinos. No. It's the white hipster millennials who have transformed the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, and the Working Families Party into quite a strong block of Democrats who will challenge him in a Democratic primary. Think of what he said.
You were here before Starbucks. You were here before others came and decided they wanted to be part of this city. Folks are not only hijacking your apartments and displacing your living arrangements, they displace your conversations and said the things that are important to you are no longer important. And they decide what's important and what's not important. Go back to Iowa. You go back to Ohio. New York City belongs to the people that was here and made New York City what it is. And I know I'm a New Yorker. I protected this city. I have a right to put my voice in how the city should run.
Enough of that. Enough of that. By the way, Lou, could I just hear the beginning of that? Because Justin Ellick, you are a proud hipster and millennial. He sets his timeline of this white migration that came in and filled the ranks of the Democrats with progressives, liberals, and socialists.
You were here before Starbucks.
Okay, that's it. You were here before Starbucks. Suggesting that when you hang out at Starbucks, like a lot of hipster millennial women do with their gingham dresses, their crazy Mark Cuban-style glasses, reading Catcher in the Rye. I don't know why they read Catcher in the Rye. They all seem to. And having your double lattes, that you are responsible for taking over a Democratic Party that is going to reject the crook, the future felon, Eric Adams. Swagger man with no plan. Notice they're universal in their call for people to get the hell out of here. Adams, Cuomo, and Holcomb doubled down on that.
This is the Rip and Read featuring Curtis Sliwa. Now to the Bernard McGurk studios of 77 WABC and Curtis Sliwa.
This made my wife Nancy cry all weekend long because of those jackbooted thugs, those New York State enforcers of the Department of Environmental Conservation. Whose boss is Kathy Holcomb, who wants everyone to leave, who's hell-bent at going after an animal rescuer in upstate New York. The gentleman's name, well, people knew him because he was an influencer, Mark Longo, about caring for animals in distress. Mark Longo, who had turned his apartment, his home, into a triage center for animals in the wild who were injured. Raccoons, possums, squirrels, animals who would normally not be domesticated. Mark simply brought them inside, and at times, at great expense, would get vets to come. Sometimes they'd have to do amputations to keep these creatures of God alive. Mark is a saint. I would hope one day, Justin Ellick, that in the eyes of whoever the Pope is at that time in Vatican City, that there is a beatification process. This guy's like the second coming of St. Francis of Assisi. How many animals he and his wife have rescued, how many animals that they have put all back together again and then been able to release into the wilds. But out of all of those animals, there was one that stood out, Peanut. This was a squirrel who had been ravaged early on in its life. Mark and his wife had rescued this squirrel, brought him into their domicile, cared for him, and bonded in such a way that he became a member of the family. And Mark and his wife, they wanted to release Peanut back into the wild, but Peanut would not go. Peanut became an internet sensation. Look, Justin Ellick, you wouldn't know this, nor would you, Lou Rufino. I grew up in the midst of the Cold War in the 1960s, when we every day would have to duck under our desks when the air raid siren would go off and kiss both of our cheeks, our dupa, our tukis, because we feared that Nikita Khrushchev had finally sent those nuclear weapons to destroy all of us, as he had promised when, in the midst of a tirade, a vodka-initiated tirade on the floor of the General Assembly of the United Nations, he took his stinky footwear off and banged the table and said, "We will bury you." So every day thereafter, we had to duck and cover. And God only knows how many times I forgot to wipe my tuchus, because then I'm stuck there sniffing it for like 4 minutes until the air raid siren went off. And life would go back again. And you know who guided us through that Cold War? Justin Ellick and Lou Rufino. Rocket J. Squirrel and Bullwinkle J. Moose. In their battles against the KGB twins, Boris and Natasha, in the midst of the Cold War. Remember, it was Rocket J. Squirrel who was the brains of the operation. The Moose, he was the musclehead. But I found solace every day in coming home and watching Rocket J. Squirrel and Bullwinkle J. Moose, because I knew our side was winning. And then there was the Cold War, JFK versus Nikita Khrushchev. Remember, they did a movie, Failsafe. 10 days, the Cuban Missile Crisis. And every day I religiously watched Rocket J. Squirrel and Bullwinkle J. Moose. And so when I heard that all of a sudden these jackbooted thugs of the Department of Environmental Conservation was sent in to take a raccoon that this family, the Longo family, had rescued and were caring for because there had been a call that potentially this raccoon had rabies. It turns out the call came in from Texas that it was a person who was jealous of Longo's influence with Peanut. And apparently they claim that Peanut bit one of these jackbooted thugs. And then they took Peanut, too, along with the raccoon, and they murdered them. They murdered them. They say euthanize, it was murder. But I say, recently we saw the Chinese Democratic Councilwoman in Bensonhurst, Susan Schwang, charged with biting a police officer's hand as they were attempting to force the demolition of a building on 86th and 25th Avenue that was going to be turned into a men's shelter. And for 111 days, that community has rebelled and protested peacefully. But they jammed up Susan Schwang and said, you bit a cop. If they could have, they might have put her in solitary confinement, locked up the key, and threw it away. But you see, with animals, you can do that because in New York State, they are viewed as property. And so Kathy Hochul may not have known who directed this, but she certainly is in charge of the Department of Environmental Conservation. She must answer for this. And I might add, let me tell you that as much as she has maligned all of us as Republicans, saying that we are anti-woman, that we are anti-abortion, that we are anti-American, she actually can issue a report now and do a deep dive and find out why her state agency was responsible for the murder of Peanuts. And this has gone viral. And the Longo family says, enough is enough, this must stop. Even though it is illegal, according to certain laws, not to house squirrels, even for the purpose of repairing their damaged bodies and releasing them out to Mother Nature, the Longo family is standing strong. And I and Nancy, as you know, we have the animal welfare aspect of the Guardian Angels and the animal welfare program on Sunday nights from 10 to 11, and we took a stand for the Longo family and to preserve the memory of Peanuts, who was murdered by New York State officials. Believe it or not, look at it. It's gone viral, Justin Ellick. It's being carried all around the world, this story, even more so than the razor-thin margins of the polls in this presidential election between Trump and Harris. We cannot rest until justice is done in the name of Peanuts and every animal who has been killed by our government needlessly.